All right, what's up, y'all? Today's the 23rd of August, 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. This is our main side. I'll talk about it. Okay, each of our fourths to In the Image Clothing Company, as well as the dirt that is in my nails, is something we will talk about, and we just have. So here's the thing. This video is titled The Importance of Even Pinky Fingers, and we'll get into it. I've talked about the pinky fingers often, okay? But this will be a thorough one. We have our videos titled The Importance of and Even Things in the Body, okay? So there's two sides to the body and they need to be even. We'll get into it. This is our main side of In the Image Clothing Company, one of our fourths. Really what we do is allow the human body to work. We come at it through clothing because it's the only thing placed on us physically. The human body is just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space, okay? The human body is atop Earth's gravity. There's a center line to the body, the sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and the jaw. The jaw naturally stabilizes the entire body on Earth's gravity, and it has to stay with all those other things in the center because gravity has a center that it pulls down on things with, and there's two sides to the body, okay? Clothing that we wear has to stay centered, fit correct, where I'll discuss here in a minute, and be made from 100% natural materials because the human body is natural as well. This shirt is inside out, by the way, okay? Just for visual context, if you will, of what's going on. Now, here's the thing, okay? There's a neutral joint in every part of the body. And I talk about the neutral wrist so often. It's what I show when I talk about there being a neutral to every joint when I'm making videos, because you can just show the wrist so easily on camera, but it's straight out from that pinky finger, okay? And our body has to just reside in its neutrals no matter what it's doing all the time in our lives, okay? Clothing placed on us won't allow that to happen if it's not fitting us properly. And so we've got size and weight imbalances in clothing. Materials themselves are very damaging to the body, okay? And they didn't even exist a few decades ago. Seriously, these unnatural materials, they're new. A lot of the things that we talk about under In the Image Clothing Company are new. New things that couldn't have even been discussed in the past and are damaging human beings in ways that just never could have in the past either, okay? So, muscles only contract. Stretch within clothing goes the opposite direction of the only way that muscles could ever work, which is shortening, okay? Now, we give free modifications in clothing, but we have In the Image Clothing Company clothing. We're a clothing company after all. That will stay centered, fit correct, be made from 100% natural materials. As I said, right, that's how we allow the human body to work. But here is the thing. We're about the human body's natural function. We're not about clothing. But we just have to address clothing because it's placed physically on us. We're always within it. Everything we do in our lives, we're actually doing it through clothing, not doing the thing. We're moving through our clothing rather than moving through our environment. Okay. Holy heavens. I think part of it is I've just made so many videos on the pinky finger. It's like I've already kind of talked about most of these things, but we'll get into depth with this and talk about the importance of even pinky fingers left to right in the body. Okay. Now, eating, standing, walking, sleeping, breathing, hydration, all the things we do as a human being, we discuss them because we know how the body works here under In the Image Clothing Company. We talk about the anatomy in depth. That's one of the things we'll be doing here quite thoroughly, is what comes from the pinky finger. And for context as well, my body is still getting out of these chronic patternings and scar tissue. That's what we do, is get out of the patternings that come from imbalances for so many years in clothing, shoelaces and drawstrings, when you place ropes on the body and tie them, twisting the whole body, or just oversized clothing in itself will just severely damage the body. All the musculature connects from the center, like the sternum in the front here, or the spine in the rear here, and then it comes out to the edge of the body, from the shoulder to the sternum, or from the shoulder to the spine, and on both sides, okay? So there just has to be evenness to the body, and that's the point of these videos, right? The importance of even, and in this case, pinky fingers, okay? So, patterning, scar tissue, chronically imbalanced human beings across the earth in the same patternings, the right-handed world, as we talk about, okay? We've got a video titled The Right-Handed World, but we just discuss it like that, as we do, because that's how it is, okay? We get into patternings that are right-handed, and our right side of our bodies are just falling away from the center, they're turning more externally rotated, okay? We've got internal rotation, and we've got external rotation. And on the right side of the body, as it falls away from its center, it goes more externally rotated and it drops. And now the whole side of the body is being pulled on, pulled down and away from its center, and it goes through everything. Okay, we've got a video titled Scar Tissue in the Body. I went over most all the locations in the body where these scar tissue patternings stay and happen. And yeah, so there's a lot of places in the body that scar tissue gets built up, and it happens the same to everybody on the earth because clothing's going to do the same thing to you, to everybody on the earth. Designs are basically the same, but even just oversized clothing will fall to your dominant side, which is your right. If you're 85% of the population of the earth, okay? If you're left-handed, yeah, sure, you know, could be the other side, but things designed to be used, like product-wise, are meant to be used right-handed almost always, just because the vast majority of the population is right-handed. So if it's like a one-handed operation, it will be designed for the right hand, okay? And that will just put us into a patterning where our right side is, as I said, farther away from the center, okay? Externally rotated and dropped. And now there's that neutral wrist, not there anymore, and that pinky on the right side is very much altered, okay? We talk about it often, and I'll talk about it more here, like I'm saying. But we've got 3 other sides to us, okay? In the Image Clothing Company podcast, another 4th of us, we have deep discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. We're on episode 155 as of the last one we filmed, and it's awesome, okay? It's not some place to have, like, me persuade you into anything. I'm not religious, although I am. It's a fun place to be because we're all human beings placed on the same earth. We all have one God. We discuss him there as he says that he is, although we can't do that perfect because we can't understand him fully. And it's a place full of deep conversation. So check it out if you'd like to. And then we've got another 4th, In the Image Clothing Company music. I show mainly the sizing and setup of guitars to not alter the body, okay? Because we're doing fine little motor skills with our hands, and we need to keep our bodies in their neutral position. Otherwise, you develop severe patterning and scar tissue all throughout your body from poorly set up or sized guitars, okay? But I also make music. I place it there. I do lyricism. We've got this series called Metronome Madness where I just freestyle off the top rhyming, okay, with no metronome, and do a lot of cool messages through it geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ, okay? So, In the Image Clothing Company poodles, the last 4th to mention here, we specialize in purebred standard poodles. We breed them properly, registering them under the American Kennel Club, and advocating for doing so is also another thing that we do. We keep less dogs in shelters and more dogs at home if we actually register our dogs and have expected litters, right? I mean, it's just how it is. We talk about a lot of things with dogs, letting dogs stay natural. Here in the state of Utah, we have beautiful mountains. We've got a lot of nature. We've got a lot of awesome places that we can have what we call poodle parade events under In the Image Clothing Company poodles. Bring your poodles that are purebred of any size and or poodle mixes of any size. Come here, check scheduling on InTheImageClothingCompany.com, what you can and can't bring, okay? And I'll give a lot of information on letting dogs stay natural, but we'll also just have a good time, and you can document it, share it with people, show what we do. We'll give information on all the things that we do there, okay? So, there you go. Now, clothing for everybody has to sit in the same location. Whether you are a man or a woman, if you're tall or short, skinny or fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be, you are just a human being. And you have a pinky finger. It's going to get affected if your clothing's not sitting in its proper location. But so will your whole body. So pants need to be entirely above the hips because that's our natural waist. Above the hip bones, but below the lowest ribs. That's where we actually bend side to side. And then with our pants in that location, we need them to be slightly higher in the front than the rear because that's just our neutral position for the pelvis, meaning the hip structure, to sit, for our core to stay activated, okay? our abdominal muscles, working with our hamstrings, keeping our feet arches gripped, keeping our shoulders in their neutral location, keeping our body vertical on Earth's gravity, what people would call good posture, but really is just the only way that God designed the body to work. And it just would if it wasn't altered by clothing, okay? So we have tops that we wear as well. And the seams on top of our shoulders need to sit evenly behind the peak of the shoulders. And I'm aware that this one over here on the left of mine right now is falling forward. I'm feeling it. And I'm saying, the shirt's inside out. It's a unique situation. Okay, but our shoulders follow shoulder seams, and the shoulders of our bodies only ever work behind our head. That's just where they connect mechanically. That's just how the body works. Okay. And then the edges of our tops need to be right at the very edges of our shoulders, because that's same thing, just how the body works. It's a joint, and it needs to mesh with the joint of our material. Okay, the body and the clothing. Now, two things we have as prerequisites under In the Image Clothing Company to not restrict the body. When we weave ropes across the top of our feet, that is our first prerequisite. We call them shoelaces, but there's only one way to do it that doesn't alter the feet. There's just mechanics in there that only do what they do. The pinky toes point forward as the pinky fingers do. Okay, and we'll get into that with this on the importance of even pinky fingers. So, yeah, In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, the only way you can actually weave ropes across the feet and allow them to continue to work unaltered. And then we tie shoes, and we have to tie shoes evenly over toward the center line of the body on both feet, because there's two sides to it. And there's a lot of rotations in the lower leg. We have a video titled Rotations of the Lower Leg under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company, and there are both internal and external rotations in the lower leg, which is just like the forearm. Okay, we have a video titled The Forearm and the Lower Leg, because they're basically the same thing. Okay, the human body is very simple. The hands are the feet, the wrists are the ankles, the forearms are the lower legs, the elbows are the knees, the upper arms are the upper leg bones, the shoulders are the hips, and then the spine just connects the two. You've got a head on top of that with this jaw stabilizing the entire body. Very simple. We just need to see it as it is. We just need to understand where the problems are coming from, and it is clothing, truly the only fix for human beings' physical problems. No claim. We discuss it so thoroughly, it's just what it is, but we have to be able to know where it's coming from, okay? Secondly, our other prerequisite is to remove all tags from clothing. Anywhere a tag is placed in clothing, it's either causing just a physical gap, changing the body's only working position, and or just not allowing musculature to activate. And then the body's trying to be compensating for that, and it can't, because everything in it has a role to play, and it has to continue to do that. Okay. So here we are, the importance of even pinky fingers. And I'll just do it thorough. I just will. We've got videos titled, as I started to mention, the pinky finger affects the entire body. Yeah, and I made two of those. We have one titled Incorporating the Pinky Finger. Oh wow, Involving the Pinky Finger is actually what it's titled. I used to have videos, I don't know if they're still placed here, and if not, that's fine. We just talk about it all the places that we do. Incorporating a radius in daily life is what I titled those videos I made. I made 2 or 3 of those back in the fall of 2024, right at the very founding, because our hands are round. We have to remember that. Our human hands are rounded. And I talk about this when I talk about the sizing and setup of guitars, because there's flat fretboard guitars that we use our rounded human hands to play, okay? And the human hands have always been round, can only ever work round. A lot of it comes from the feet though. Since the hands are essentially the feet, they're pretty much the exact same thing, only one difference in the amount of bones that's within them. The functionality is so similar. They grip arches, essentially. That's why I call these hand arches. And if our feet are within shoes that are laced incorrect, it's a little bit windy, our hand arches won't be able to be there if our feet arches are collapsed by our shoe laces, okay? And then if our shoes are tied unevenly, that just travels up with rotations through the whole body out to the tips of the fingers and the tip of our head. And then our hands can't just work normal, because a rotation issue will cause from the foot imbalances out of neutral positions all the way up to the hand. And then you can't grip your hand normally, and the hand only works in line. The fingers just track in line. You put your hand out of its neutral wrist, and the fingers spread apart, they bind up. You've got things going up through your whole arm to your elbow. Things meaning muscles, tendons, ligaments connecting bones, bones that just have to mesh at the joints or else they bind up. And that all only happens in a neutral position. Only ever, always. That's it. And that's why from this alone, people would be in such chronic patterning and scar tissue and pain in their bodies, because then from your hand, it'll travel to your shoulder, okay? Or then from your hand, it'll travel to your hip. But really all that's come, in this case of shoelacing, from your shoes. Really just the laces in them in this case, okay? So the point being, I'm gonna hit this thorough. Our pinky fingers affect our entire body, and they do, and I've said it since the founding. That's been one of the biggest things. Our hands are rounded, but our pinky fingers are the shortest one out of the 4 fingers. They're so much shorter than the other fingers, okay? So when we're holding things, our pinkies have to be able to get involved, and the bigger things are, the more our pinkies can't quite get there, all right? That's what I mean when I say involving the pinky finger in our lives, is we need things to be rounded, and we need them to be small enough to where they fit in our hands. I made a video titled Things Need to Fit in Our Hands under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company, and they have to. Our hands have to close, and then we can actually use our bodies. If our hands are chronically open, we're stuck throughout the whole body, okay? Yeah. Rotations happen when the extremities, the hands and the feet, are closed and gripped, okay? Gripped arches in the feet with the toes all nice and together, pointing forward, straight out from that pinky toe, which is how our feet just naturally walk, okay? Rolling inward like this, because that's just how the toes are shaped, kind of like an arrow forward, right? So the pinky toe points forward, and then all the toes can just evenly press off the ground, rotating in slightly as we walk. We talk about that, right? The natural human gait cycle, the natural walking gait. Find videos where you can under In The Image Clothing Company's main site on that. But that travels directly to our hands. And when we're tying knots in our feet, okay, if we're not tying shoes evenly, our hands won't be even. And if your hands aren't even, as far as not evenly pointing forward, neutral, then your pinky finger will take the most beating, okay? It'll be the one that's most out of alignment because it's just shorter than the rest, and it's straight out from the neutral, so, you know, of the wrist, of the forearm, of the whole arm, really, traveling all the way up to the shoulder. And if it's not allowed to be involved in things in life, it'll just be very, very altered, and we'll get all this scar tissue built up on the side of our pinky fingers, and you can probably see it online quite easily. And this is after, well, close to a year of having In The Image Clothing Company. And then before I founded In The Image Clothing Company, I was already doing things to get my body out of chronic patterning. And so after all that much time, there's still this much discrepancy left to right in my pinky fingers, okay? And so that's one of the beautiful things about what I call the gift of video, right? Documenting these things as I go, you can see the actual transformation happening in my body as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, Evan Strong. And then you can see how these things are actually valid, and how things line up, and how things that we talk about just really are what they are, and they do apply to every human across the face of the earth. Okay. So, the pinky finger. It affects the entire body big time. Because this is the thing, if you're gripping your hands with your wrist out of its only neutral, because of any reason we could get into, then you're working your pinky finger in a position where it's going to build up musculature and just start tracking through the joints out of a neutral rather than in its neutral. And then it'll just build up scar tissue, build up bone mass right here in the joints and the knuckles of the fingers. Happens to the whole hand if the wrist is out of its neutral. but what determines the neutral is the pinky, and so it's the one that gets affected the most, okay? And this is the big thing with the neutral wrist, is it's what allows us to reach our arm across our bodies. We need to have our bodies be able to be from their neutral, okay, here, just at the sides, hanging down with gravity, thumbs pointing forward. They need to be able to go across the body and out from the body, okay? Both arms, we need to be able to reach across without compensation in the body, and then we need to be able to reach out to the side without compensation in the body, okay? And we've got a video titled The Importance of Even Elbow Extension, okay? Under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company. And then, as I say, when we talk about the chronic patterning and scar tissue that gets built up in the body, it's just the right side, just about only, like the episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast titled Choose the Right. I went over a lot of things in there, but one of the many things, and pretty much the main point, physically at least with the human body, was that the right side of the body is almost the only side, and it really pretty much is the only side we need to address when it comes to ridding, patterning, and scar tissue from the body. We show how to do that and where to look to find those things under In The Image Clothing Company's main side. Okay, we've got videos titled The Right Pinky Finger. Shoot, maybe. We talk about it though, keeping hands the same size. We've got one titled The Right Forearm, internal rotation of the forearm, dorsiflexion of the right foot, where I talk about scar tissue getting built up on the right shin bone, the lower leg, right? Correlating with the forearm. The right elbow, the right collarbone, the right pelvis crest. These are videos under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company and locations where scar tissue gets built up. We have a video titled The Importance of Even Lat Insertions. The latissimus dorsi muscle. It comes down the back, starts at the hip crest, the pelvis crest on the rear, connects to that and also the lowest part of the spine. Then it travels up the whole back and connects to the rear of the arm. There's one on both sides, and the right side gets inhibited, okay? Now, mind the gap, an episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast, and we need to do that as well in our lives. Minding the gap in this sense, I talked about many things with minding the gap under In The Image Clothing Company podcast's episode titled that, but we need to have our arms hanging down at our sides, right? Clothing has to fit. It's the only fix for human beings' physical problems. If our clothing has a gap here from our rib cage / just our own side, okay, really at our natural waist, where the top of the hips are, from there to the bottom of the ribs, where our pants sit, really, at the natural waist, okay, that's where our elbow will just rest. That's just how the body works. The elbow comes down right to the very bottom of the ribs. And what happens in that location is gravity is pulling straight down on the arms, okay? And they need to be able to be just right at the sides of our own bodies without a gap of clothing material changing the whole body. And now there goes your pinky finger from a gap at your side from oversized clothing, okay? Because there's just only one neutral. And the rotations in the forearm, they're only going to happen in this neutral position with, the forearm straight out the neutral wrist, straight out the pinky finger. If your neutral wrist isn't there and your pinky finger's altered, you're not going to be rotating your forearm. And then that's where all this scar tissue comes and gets built up, because the musculature just adheres to the bone, meaning just holds on so tightly to try to work when it's not able to just naturally rotate in its neutral position, okay? And so scar tissue, that's what I mean, right? Chronic patterning and scar tissue, that's what we get out of under In The Image Clothing Company. That's how we allow the human body to work, is by stopping the restriction and then ridding the scar tissue, okay? So the neutrals, that's what the body's about. The human body's only normal is a video we have as well under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company. And there's just only a normal to the human body in all senses of that, okay? yeah, all senses of it. We talk about it. So having our hands be able to be nice and open, okay, that open palm with our hand arches, fingernails on the fingers, man. Seriously. That's another thing that I did for so many years, is cut my fingernails too short. That's another thing that allowed me to found In The Image Clothing Company, okay? Shoelaces, drawstrings, the dreaded collar seam modification, finding out how clothing has to fit, removing tags from clothing, playing guitar. These things allowed me to found In The Image Clothing Company and understand how the human body works. One of the main things as well, though, was fingernails. And yes, mine are dirty right now, very much so. But fingernails have to fully and entirely support the ends of our fingers. Here's the wind again. If our fingernails are cut too short, well, think about the pinky finger already being too short. It's not too short, but the pinky finger being shorter than the rest of our fingers, it already is going to not grip on a lot of things that are just too big for our hands to actually work. And then if we don't have natural support on our fingers, then our fingers will kind of like just slip away from things and they'll roll on the tips. And then if your fingers are rolling, now look where your pinky finger definitely isn't. And it's only normal workings, okay? The hand needs to just grip on the ends of the fingers. The pads of the fingers are what we use, where the fingerprints are. We live in a modern man-made world, placed onto God's natural earth. As I say, check out In The Image Clothing Company podcast. You'll hear me say that often. If you hear me say it quite a few times in multiple episodes where I have, if you listen to them, okay? There's some good ones. But this is the point. The hands work round. We use things flat nowadays, and so we're using the tips of our fingers to do things that just couldn't actually happen in nature. It wouldn't actually help us. We couldn't actually press things the way that we're thinking we're pressing things in modern day with our technology. But things like the thumb, it's the pad of the thumb that's meant to push on something. Now look at the position of my hand. When the pad of my thumb, where the thumbprint is pushing, rather than what we're doing so much in modern day on the tips of our fingers, that doesn't actually do anything. That's not how the human body works. The tips of the fingers? No, okay? No. And no again. That's not how it works, the body. But we get so out of touch and lost, and that'll cause us to wear oversized clothing, actually. And I've talked about that, but yeah, because then if your hands are altered, your shoulders will be, and now your shoulders won't be in their only neutral location. They'll be dropped so much, and so you'll just naturally wear clothing that's too big for you. Naturally, meaning that's what you'll go to, because your hands are altered from too short of fingernails, using the tips of your fingers for things, when it's the pads that grip and allow neutrality, if you will, through the joints and the body to just work, okay? So the pinky finger is going to be so affected. If any of them are, it's going to be affected the most because it's just the shortest, if it's not having its natural strength from fingernails, okay? Which you can see here, right? As my fingernails curl away, let's say, meaning my fingers curl too much because my fingernails are cut too short in this hypothetical. Now my pinky finger will just not even be able to touch anything with all the tips of the fingers trying to do something because the pinky finger is shorter. But if the fingers are allowed by support from fingernails, the God-given natural strength that's just supposed to be there that we sometimes cut too short, then we can actually use the pads of our fingers, keep our neutral wrist, and have grip strength, okay? Traveling up to our shoulder, but really traveling down to our feet and the arches, gripping, and there you go, okay? So that's a lot of what it is. Like I say, yeah, we're a clothing company, but we could never allow the human body to work by even having the most ideal clothing if we didn't talk about things like the importance of fingernails at long enough of a length, okay, to fully support the fingers. So we talk about a lot of things. I mean, we talk about everything that we do as a human being, truly, actually. It's just a machine. We just discuss how it works, and there you go. Now you can go live your life with your body functioning well, actually, to the best of your own personal ability. Yeah, seriously. So this is a big thing. If we can't get our pinkies neutral, then our shoulders will just be dropped, okay? The pinky finger affects the entire body. It just does. And if our right pinky finger is the one that's so much more altered from anything, everything, all things in clothing that we talk about that's imbalanced to the right, I mentioned a couple, but rotated seams, you know, we talk about in the Image Clothing Company's rotated seam modification. I mentioned the dreaded collar seam. Anytime there's a seam in the collar of our top, well, collars need to stay centered, okay? They have to. Keeping collars centered. A video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. One of the things we talk about the most. I stuttered through it. Yeah, it's one of the things we talk about the most. The dreaded collar seam modification is what we show in The Image Clothing Company. We came up with it. It allows collars to stay pretty well centered with that seam there. It's just something that has to be placed around our neck evenly. Now, if our collars are falling off to one side, our hand coming from our shoulder will be lower on that side. And now our neutral wrist will just not be there, okay, just from the collar of our top not sitting centered, just that alone. And then our pinky finger will build up, like I'm discussing, this chronic scar tissue and patterning and damage that then travels from the pinky now through the rest of the body. Okay, everything we're ever holding in our hands, just our arms resting at our sides, but our hand is tweaked, it goes to our shoulder. Okay, it goes through our whole body, and it's so damaging. And so that's what I mean when I say the top seams of our tops need to sit evenly behind the peak of our shoulders. That dreaded collar seam will just cause those top seams to not sit evenly. And then it goes to the right pinky finger. The collar seam that we call the dreaded collar seam is almost always on the left side of our collars, okay? Up on the left shoulder, really this upper left trapezius muscle. It's like right here behind the shoulder seam. Almost always where that collar seam is placed. Sometimes it's in different locations, but rarely, okay? So anything that causes the right side of the body to be lower than the left, well, muscles only contract. And so to get our hands to actually fully close, we have to contract our muscles up the whole chain of the arm, stemming from the extremities at the fingers. Our hands need to fully close, and then up the arm, our musculature can activate and work, and then traveling there from the elbow, let's say, right, up the forearm to the elbow. Now we've got up the upper arm. These muscles, like the triceps, can be in their neutral location back here, in line with the body, rather than the arm hanging in front of the body, okay? And then our shoulder can be in a neutral location. And then our upper trapezius muscles, which are these ones up here, okay, that connect from the top / rear of the shoulder, where the shoulder seam sits, okay, along the spine of the neck, and then to the very base and rear of the skull. That's what I mean. The shoulders only ever work behind the head. That's just where they connect mechanically. And in that location, we need to have even contraction or workings, shortenings of our upper trapezius muscles, okay? And we have a video titled The Importance of Even Sternocleidomastoid Insertions, which is this muscle that comes from right behind the ear down into the front of our bodies here, where our collarbone or the clavicle connects to our sternum in the center of our body, okay? And those connect in the front, the upper trapezius connect in the rear, and our bodies need to stay centered, okay? So we need to have our upper trapezius muscles being able to actually contract. And why I'm saying that right now with the pinky finger and explaining it as thorough as I am, rather than just kind of briefly saying it quicker than I did, is because our tops have to stay centered, otherwise our hands won't be able to close. Okay, we talk about the importance of keeping hands the same size. And that's what I'm showing here is all the scar tissue that gets built up in the pinky finger, and we need our hands to be the same size, okay? Otherwise, our whole body will just be off to the side that has the wider or thicker or more built up with bone mass and scar tissue and patterning and misalignment hand, right? Rather than being at our own side. So, evenly with the other side is the point, right? There's just two sides to the body. That's why these videos are the importance of even, and then whatever we say after that. There's two sides to the body on Earth's gravity. Now, when we have our hand being chronically, constantly open because our shoulder is lower on the right, well, that's not okay, because then the hand won't track in line, and then our pinky finger will take the most beating, just being that neutral wrist, because the whole hand functionality is altered. And so the neutral, which is the outside of the pinky up the forearm, will just not be there anymore, okay, if the hand can't close all the way in line, tracking. The pinky finger affects the entire body. Now, this is the big thing with the dreaded collar seam modification. It's often the littlest things in our lives that cause the biggest effect to our lives. And the dreaded collar seam is very, very small. It's not in this top, which is ideal, but to show it, I can't here right now. I don't have one to show. We modify the seam in our collar. Tiny little snip with scissors. Look up in the Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification, and that allows that seam that's just thicker, it's just more material, it's just going to sit higher on the left side, which deactivates the right side of the body, okay, puts the collar off to the right side of the body, pulling on the musculature of the neck on the right side, like the upper trapezius, like the sternocleidomastoid, and all the muscles in the neck that we talk about the importance of keeping collars centered and why, right? I mean, you can see here, okay, that all gets just pulled on and inhibited on the right side of the body. And then our hands will just be constantly open from there. So what the dreaded collar seam modification really does is take that seam of our collars that's almost always on the left side, but either side it'll alter the other side. It's just what it is, okay? Thicker material placed around musculature, imbalanced when there's a center line, and it has to stay even, okay? It'll cause that collar seam to just sit slightly lower and have the shoulders be able to be more even, okay? And then our hands can close better if our shoulders can work better. It's all just a chain. The human body just works all together, and there you go. So there's a lot of things though, right? Just keeping sleeve edges right at the edges of our shoulders, meaning our shoulder seams right at the edges of our shoulders, okay? And the importance of short sleeves, okay? Keeping short sleeves short is a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. We have to actually be able to fully bend our elbow without our sleeves in the way. Even if they're short sleeves, if they're touching your forearms, well, they're going to alter your forearm's function. When we talk about the rotations in the forearms, to get the forearm, meaning from the elbow down to the fingers, across your body, you have to, watch my thumb here, internally, okay, internally rotate your forearm like this, okay? In a neutral position, you're not going to get over there. You have to rotate just because there's two bones in the arm that need to just clear over each other. And so they have to rotate inward, the whole forearm, just to get the arm across the body, okay? Now look where the pinky finger is in this location. If the pinky finger wasn't here, neutral, but it was actually out of its neutral, it would just cause external rotation in the forearm. Okay? From neutral, if the pinky finger comes down out of its neutral, the forearm rotates external, and you can just see what the two bones are doing. They're literally just rolling over each other in a way that's farther away from the body to the outside of the body. And that's all that's happening. Really, it's just mechanics, right? It's just a mechanical machine. And so we need to get our neutral wrist straight out from the pinky, and then we can get our elbow at our side, and then with our elbow at our side, we can get our pinky finger to come across our body by internally rotating our forearm. But it won't happen with too short of, or okay, with not short enough short sleeves, okay? But then how sleeve cuffs affect body mechanics, things on our hands or our wrists, right? Our sleeve cuffs just too long, altering our hands, really just like opening our hands and deactivating our hands because there's just something on them and something in the way. So, okay, keeping things off the wrists, off the elbow joint, and then down at the feet as well, it travels up to the hands. So how pant cuffs affect body mechanics. Another video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, as well as how sleeve cuffs affect body mechanics, is a video that we have under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. Keeping shorts off the knee, okay? Same thing as keeping short sleeves short, but it'll travel up to your hands and your neutral pinky finger. So we talk about a lot of things, and in depth as well, the anatomy of the human body and how to just allow it to work. You should never have to work out. It's designed by God to work. We just can't restrict it, but we have to know how to have clothing be placed on it. Now, when you're sleeping, it's hard for people to sleep on their left side. Most people sleep on their right side. It's just hard for them to get to the left. And look at this. External rotation on the right side of the body, this chronic right-handed patterning from clothing, from just the right-handed world, from just falling farther away, lower and more external from your center line on your right side, just what clothing does and all the things, right, that cause imbalances, really what we do under In The Image Clothing Company. Man, in that location, you're just falling off to your right side. And so you think about like falling to sleep, you'll just fall to your right side. It's hard to get to the left side to sleep because of what I was showing here with the rotation of the forearm. And this is the same as the lower leg, by the way, like I'm saying, like the video we have. The forearm and the lower leg, they're the same thing, really. And so we need to keep even rotations left to right, because if you can internally rotate your left forearm, really what you're going to do is externally rotate your right forearm, which is the position you're already in patterning. Okay, just farther away from your body on the right, rotate it away from your body, external. Now you'll sleep like this on your right side. But to sleep on your left side, okay, the right elbow, the right forearm, the right pinky finger, it all has to get in the location I've been discussing through this whole video. Right at your side, and then it can get across your body to the other side. So that's why it's so hard for people to sleep on their left side, okay? It really is, too. And just picture like this, you know, getting your arms from even here in front of you to your left side. Look at all that has to happen here on the right to just clear the body with the whole arm to get your arm across your body. Shoulder seams, right? They need to be hinging where your shoulder is. Short sleeves need to be off your elbows so that they can actually move over here and internally rotate to cross the body. But the pinky finger has to be able to be neutral. Otherwise, that in itself will just cause everything else to be imbalanced anyway, and you're falling to your right side. All just because your pinky finger alone. Even if you never had any kind of imbalances from something happening, like clothing placed on you, let's say you never had worn clothing, but you just damaged your pinky finger and it's out of its only neutral, it's just mechanics of the body. That's what I'm saying. But clothing will cause that to happen, regardless of anything else you've done to your actual physical pinky finger itself. okay? It's coming from somewhere else, like the shoulder, like the feet, like rotated knots at the hips, twisting the whole body, okay? So, yeah, how drawstrings affect body mechanics. Under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, we show the slipped lap knot, okay? Tie the tail end over toward the center, and then you've got an even rope around your waist that's not rotating your whole body with a knot tied one side over the other, okay? I didn't know either until I was 24 years old, but this is really what we are, okay? Allowing the human body to work in all aspects of life. It has to come through the only thing placed on us physically. Now, that's a big thing. Just getting the right arm across the body, you'll never do it if you can't get your pinky to be in line with your other fingers in that natural rounded hand arch, okay, neutral position. So there's a lot that comes from the pinky finger, and that's why I've talked about it as much as I have. And I've had to do so much myself, you know, to just break up the scar tissue on the outside of the pinky finger. And well, all throughout my hand as well. And you can see that, well, now I'm not exaggerating this. If I just try to keep my body just even, right, like I stand, because I stand even to the degree that I can, but look at this is one thing that's not fully allowing me to right now still, okay? I'm still working through it. As I just have my body even, my feet gripped evenly pointing forward, my knees evenly bent and activated through my legs, my hips even, my spine even, my shoulders even, my jaw centered, stabilizing my body, my elbows at my sides. If I put my hands up like this and try to just straighten my fingers, my right hand just splays out, spreads my fingers. I'm not exaggerating. I can't make it anything different than it is right now. I can't keep my fingers together like I can on my left hand and just extend them. They just spread out, because not only the pinky finger, but a lot of it's because of the pinky finger's patterning. It has traveled through the other knuckles, and I just have built up bone mass in my knuckles. Truly, this is what I mean, keeping hands the same size. This is what I mean when I say I speak out of personal experience. This is what I mean when I say I'm the founder of In the Image Clothing Company because I learned how the human body worked and blah, blah, blah. This is what I mean when I say, oh, that's funny, I don't mean to say blah, 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 because this is as real as it gets. But that's what I mean. Clothing is the only fix. It's the reason that my hand is like this, okay? Sure, holding things that are too big in my hand for years and flat, okay? That's because that's the point, right? If you're holding things flat, your fingers will spread apart because really they're meant to be rounded, and so if they go away from their rounding, they'll just move away from each other, okay? That's what we say, okay? Involving the pinky finger, you have to have rounding or else you just never could involve your pinky finger actually in things in life, okay? But I'm just still working through this stuff myself as well, right? And so, like I'm saying, the gift of video, it's beautiful to be able to document. There's episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast where I've shown my hands, similar to how I just did here. It was even more imbalanced in those times because that was at least a month ago plus. So, yeah, okay. The jaw stabilizes the entire body. And if our hands are imbalanced because of our pinky finger, then our jaw won't stay in the center because our hand's wider or just out of its neutral on the right, pulled on to the right. It's farther away from the body on the right, okay? And all things from clothing are causing that are imbalanced. Truly, it's just as real as it gets. So what happens then is your jaw goes off to the right, okay? We talk about eating and drinking with the left hand. You eat and drink with your right hand and you're externally rotating on the right side, reinforcing this same position. If you eat or drink with your left hand, you're actually going to have to internally rotate your right side just to counterbalance because there's two sides of the body, okay? Because you'll be externally rotating your left side and your right side will just counterbalance, okay? But then also your teeth, they just have to mesh evenly. They just do. You don't have to have a perfect looking smile, but your teeth have to mesh over your center of gravity. We've got a video on the main side of In The Image Clothing Company titled Workouts Don't Help the Jaw, and they don't. Meaning the jaw has to stay centered, and the jaw being imbalanced will travel to your hand, and now your pinky finger is out of alignment, and then you don't have even pinky fingers, okay? As I still don't, like I'm showing, okay? But you'll be able to see the progression as time goes, as you have up until now already, okay? Just since I have founded In The Image Clothing Company. My name is Evan Strong. Hi. It's as real as it gets. It makes me emotional a lot of the time because it's crazy. Just how deep it is, how real it is, how deep of an understanding I have of these things, and how it really does apply to every human across the earth. Always and forever, and it can never change. It's just what it is. The human body designed by God with only one way it could ever work, okay? A mechanical machine. Now, if we have things in our pockets, picture this, like I'm saying, the arm just resting at the sides, at our own sides, because gravity just pulls us straight down. If you have something in your pocket where your hand would be resting, your hand will be avoiding that thing just because it physically has to. Even if you're not avoiding it, it'll push your hand away from your own side. Change your natural hand position with the neutral wrist, with the natural rounding, okay, with that pinky finger in its only neutral location, and that will travel up to your shoulder. That will just cause a gap, and there you go, chronic patterning. And yes, that is clothing, even though it's something else that's placed into your pocket. There's no pocket for it to be placed into if you don't have clothing that is then imbalanced, is really what that is. Okay, that's a clothing imbalance. Anything that clothes the human being in any way is clothing, okay? And yeah, it damages the body if it's not even. Hence the video's titles, the importance of even, and then whatever we put after that. Okay, two sides to the body, they have to stay even. They have to. Okay, so the pinky finger is just huge. And it's huge. And it's massive. It's funny because it's like I said earlier in this video, a lot of times it's the smallest things in our life that have the biggest impact and effect on our entire lives. The dreaded collar seam, shoelaces, just one simple little knot. The pinky finger, the smallest finger of the body, and it's the pinky toe as well. Same thing. It's the neutral foot, like the pinky finger is the neutral hand, and then it travels from the foot to the hips. It travels from the hands to the shoulders. So yeah, it's as real as it gets. This is the only fix to human beings' physical problems is clothing, and there's no opinion. Okay, the reason I say it like that is just because I know people are looking in all the wrong places for fixes for things, and just one thing alone, just the dreaded collar seam. If it's in your top, you can address your entire body. You can go to every specialist on the earth. You can get surgery after surgery. You can go to physical therapy. You can do whatever you want. It will never fix your physical problems if you still have a collar seam just imbalancing your body, okay? And it goes to your pinky finger in your right hand if the collar seam's on the left. Okay, it just does. It just does, and it just does. I mean, the whole hand really on the right side gets affected, but anyway, this is what we do. This is what we are in the Image Clothing Company. Welcome. Okay, so with dogs, we have dog products as well as human being clothing. Okay, staying centered on the dog's fit, weight, size, balanced. Okay, rather than imbalances that we talk about when we discuss letting dogs stay natural, because we talk about a lot of things of human beings interacting with dogs. Oh gosh, thank you. I just got reminded of something, and I'll talk about it right after this. But yeah, okay, dog products, the same things happen to dogs. They get affected just as we do by things like imbalanced collars. Okay, so we need to keep everything centered and balanced. Now here's the thing, I made a video titled How Handles Affect Body Mechanics. Don't know if it's going to necessarily still be there when you see it or not. It wouldn't be if you're not seeing it. But I talk about how, yeah, we have a rounding to our hand naturally, and we can't hold flat things because, well, there goes the splaying out of the fingers and the dropping of the shoulders and the alteration of the whole body externally rotated, okay? But not only involving our pinky fingers in life, but when we hold things that are handles, our hands only ever work rounded, okay? Like if they're around our own thumbs. And when we hold things in our hands, the reason this got reminded to me, In the Image Clothing Company poodles will always be huge, always be a huge name in poodles, like I have said. When we hold dog leashes or any handle, you're opening a door, you're carrying groceries or a duffel bag or a suitcase or anything, briefcase, whatever it is, ever in life that has a handle that you're just holding in your hands. Even dumbbells, which is silly, right? I talk about how workouts are actually more damaging to the body than anything else, meaning than any benefit that could actually come. We just need to allow the body to work. If you're holding anything flat, even a bar, well, the fingers work like this, with the index finger and the pinky finger in more than the other fingers. So like a stick or a tree branch, it's going to have texture to it and our hands can just work well. But something flat, it places your pinky finger and your index finger at the same location as your middle two fingers, and that's not actually how they work. So when we grip a handle, if you just use your middle two fingers, now your wrist can stay neutral, okay? Rather than gripping all the fingers on something flat, it'll actually take your wrist out of its only neutral just because of the length of the fingers and the rounding that's naturally in the hand, the way that things have to just track and clear each other mechanically, and the way that they naturally are designed to work around the thumb. So when you hold handles, hold with your middle two fingers, you'll actually have more strength in this position with only two fingers than you would with all four fingers when it's damaging your body just by pulling it out of its only working rounded hand, open palm, hand arch, if you will, position, okay? So when I show how to hold dog leashes, yeah, you use your middle fingers. Otherwise your whole shoulder will be pulled on by that pinky finger coming out of its only neutral position, okay? So this is what I mean. We get into a lot of things and the pinky finger is huge, even though it's the smallest one. And really, the big thing is just keeping it even, okay? Just keeping the body even left to right, because your left side's probably fine. Or your non-dominant side at least, right? But probably your left still, to a degree at least. Because of just the right-handed world. It's not as altered, and it can just work. And it's just so much more natural, almost in every single case for almost every single human across just about the entirety of the earth. But you can see in my body just still, like I'm saying, things that are just different and they look weird. And I've never had any kind of injury to my hand like this really that would have caused anything like is happening to happen. But you can probably notice these same things on your own body, like I'm saying, and it just takes time and it takes adjusting. It takes the ridding of the scar tissue to just allow the body to work. But really the only way that it's actually going to happen is by keeping clothing centered, fitting correct, and being made from 100% natural materials, because otherwise all the release you do will just go back into the same patterning once you're done, even if you did actually get it fully released, which, yeah. So there you go. I mean, the pinky finger, it just, it affects the entire body. We need to just really be able to reach across our body evenly. We need to be able to stand evenly on each feet. And our feet won't be able to grip arches if our hands can't naturally be closed, because it's just going to travel through the whole body. It's all one thing. And so your right foot, your right knee, your right ankle, your right hip will have problems. If you do have problems, that's where it will be. People have injuries to their right side of their body, not their left. And really, your feet problems can come from your hands. Even if your feet are in shoes that are laced and tied correct, using things with your hands that are altering your right pinky finger, it just travels through the chain of the whole body, even if clothing was never worn. Okay, so it just is what it is. This is what I mean. In the Image Clothing Company. This is why our videos are long, I say. Sometimes, you know, that's the case, because there's a lot to it. And I just want to be clear, I want to be thorough. I want to make videos that can just last forever, and I don't have to go, you know, remaking them or trying to like revise them. You know, I mean, and if we do, we do, and there's things to add if and where. And I haven't even said everything in this video that I could, even with my own knowledge as of now of all that's going on. But it is cool to show, as of this time, you know, that what you can actually see, you know, discrepant in my own body as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. And I can't exaggerate it, I can't make it up, and it's just what it is. Because see this tendon that comes down the outside of the forearm here? Oh, see that? See on my pinky? I'm trying to really keep my fingers straight and then keep my hand in a position where it's actually neutral, and then my pinky sticks out. This, I didn't know I was gonna show it like this. This is amazing. I haven't shown it like this on camera at all since the founding of In The Image Clothing Company. Well, meaning just ever. I've never filmed something like this before. But see my left hand, it can just, gosh, also see it's hard to keep my own arm at my own side. But my left hand can just come in and it can go out. I mean, there's just motion to the wrist, right? From the neutral, there's in, there's out, there's back, there's forth. And my right hand, I can't actually keep my body even and keep my fingers all together without feeling all this pulling happening on the outside of my arm, up into my elbow joint. You know, we talk about it, right? The scar tissue in the elbow. Yeah. And I did, you know, have a pretty bad accident on my elbow actually when I was a kid. I got stitches here. So that's the thing, is a lot of it can come from the elbow. And then lack of rotation in the bones that meet at the elbow traveling down to the hand can alter the pinky finger. Okay, but that's only amplified on top of all the other things that are just happening in clothing that are imbalancing the body. So yeah, anyway, this is just as real as it gets, okay? And I love it that I'm able to document. I've said it already in this, and I'm just gonna say it again. I'm gonna turn around. I don't know why, I felt like I needed to. The gift of video, I love it so much, because this is eternal. As long as this video lives on, it will live on, it will be just as valid, the information, and it will be as well. So anyway, yeah, it's cool for you to be able to see. I mean, I'm watching it right now through the monitor myself, just how different it is left to right in my forearms and my wrists and my hands up and out to my pinkies, even after all the time and pain that I've spent and gone through to rid the patterning in my body as much as I have. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. Like I'm saying, I could speak on even more as of now, and going forth we'll probably only just learn deeper and more things to discuss. But for the sake of documentation, as of today's date and as of my body's current state, this is awesome. Okay. This is awesome. So the big thing is, you know, people have problems with their thumbs. They try to massage out their thumb musculature, and well, it's actually your pinky finger not allowing your thumb to do its job, because your thumb just can't get over there. Your thumb's meant to work at the neutral wrist, and so because your pinky is inhibited, your thumb just can't get to the other fingers to do things, and then the thumb, you know, builds up patterning that's not its fault. So it really is the pinky finger. It really is just the neutral positions. It really is clothing. And this is In The Image Clothing Company. So my name is Evan Strong, the founder. Stick around for the poodles. We specialize in standard size, big, beautiful dogs. And it'll be a lot that comes from and with and through poodles. And just wait and see. As of today's date, I still, as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, encapsulated with that is In The Image Clothing Company poodles, don't have any poodles of my own yet. And so even that in itself, right, all these documented videos at the beginning were about 11 months in, give or take, to In The Image Clothing Company's founding, but they will live on and be a cool testimony of just knowing where things are going to go, to a degree at least, before they do. there's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Fine Wine. And that's what I mean is as time goes on, these more beginning videos will age and become more valuable as far as the credibility and the continuity. And, we've been saying the same thing since the founding. And then you can see what actually comes from what we've been saying. And then you can do it in your own personal life as well, because it applies to everybody. Okay. So thank you. Like I'm saying, I know that there's more that I could say right now about the pinky finger and the importance of just keeping them even left to right, but we'll talk about it where we do. I've given enough context here for you to know what to do, and gratitude. Okay. So thank you. It's the 23rd of August, 2025, and there you go. Okay. Hey. Dude said hi to me. Probably thinks I'm like upset. I'm not upset. I'm humbled by this. Okay. So thank you.